You promised you'd take me there again someday.
Silent Hill 2 Remake is finally here, and the big question is it a play or a pass? So let's dive in and find out. No matter how anything else looks in Silent Hill, one thing needs to be perfect, or it's not a Silent Hill game, and that's the fog, something that the HD collection somehow messed up. This remake by Bloober Team nails that foggy atmosphere. It's thick, keeps the enemies hidden, and it moves almost like it's alive, wrapping around the abandoned buildings and cars on the streets. It's the best fog effect that I have seen in a game. At certain times, as the sun is setting, you can see the orange glow and the shadows cast on the foggy streets, highlighting the wet roads. Indoors, light floods in through windows, casting dim lighting throughout the buildings. The hospital and later stages of the game look absolutely incredible. The light streaming more directly in, it fills the room with that glow. Honestly, I didn't think Bloober Team had it in them to do this. The town of Silent Hill has never looked better. The enemies are still distinct and strange, just as they should be. Now, if you have never played Silent Hill 2 before, there isn't a lot of variety in the enemies. There are really only 4 types, besides the bosses. The ones I call flesh bags, nurses, the mannequins that are just 4 legs and a torso, and this weird thing called the Mandarin. But Bloober Team added in variants to the flesh bags and nurses. They are coated in an oily substance. The nurse versions are quite a bit tougher, and the flesh bags now explode when they're defeated. But it's the bosses, well, one boss that matters the most, and that's Pyramid Head. His strange but iconic appearance is unchanged. He is still an imposing figure. Visually, things are looking great. But there is one oversight, and that's the Nightmare Realm. The classic, heavy film grain is missing, and it takes away from the creepy vibe. They really should add this back in. I think it needs to be there because while the Nightmare World looks good, it's still too clean without that film grain. One of my biggest concerns was the combat. As far as I know, Bloober Team has never done it before. So let's look at the gameplay and see how it actually holds up. Silent Hill's combat has always been the weakest part of the series, and it still is, but this is the best it's been, especially for the non-fixed camera games like Downpour and Homecoming. The remake of Silent Hill 2 takes its combat heavily from Homecoming, but it improves it with more solid controls. You can dodge attacks, which is helpful, but the camera will sometimes become annoying. If you're too close to a wall, you won't be able to see what you're doing when you're dodging back into it. And that's the only major issue that I've found with the combat, which is a nice surprise. And just like any good survival game, the ammo is in limited supply. The enemies are tough and you will miss shots. You need to combine melee and guns to fight off the monsters. They added in the ability to break windows to search for ammo and health, and I think I broke every single window in the game because it's fun. It's a simple mechanic, but it adds to the exploration of the world. But combat is only one part. The puzzles are just as important in the world of Silent Hill, and this remake takes a unique approach. The classic puzzles like the clock and others are still there, but now they are deeper and built to explore the levels they are in. Instead of the basic clock puzzle from the original, it now has a level of its own. You have to find each hand, placing one at a time, to open new doors that will allow you to find the next piece. It's a brilliant way to expand on the original design without removing what made it a classic. And as far as the performance goes, it's mostly great on PlayStation 5. There are a few sections in the 60 FPS mode where you will see some drops. And the 30 FPS mode seems mostly rock solid, and I do think that the drops will probably be fixed in some patches. The one thing in Silent Hill that happens to be more terrifying than the siren and the monsters is the deafening silence. Walking around the streets with your footsteps being the dominant sound is eerie. They kept that classic soundtrack intact, at least the most iconic songs, because throughout the Silent Hill series, these theme songs are incredible. If you have never heard the music from Silent Hill 3, you need to go listen to it. The voice acting is pretty good. You can sense the pain of Angela and the deep regret of James. The iconic radio static still lets you know if enemies are around. And on PlayStation 5, the static comes from the controller speaker. I know some people hate this feature, but I love it for games like this because it just adds to the immersion. Yes, this game is a remake, but I am not going to spoil the story for people that have never played it before. All you need to know is that it is dark and mysterious, with characters tormented by their past, and the town embodies those feelings, amplifying them. To this day, Silent Hill 2 remains a classic in the survival horror genre, and this remake surprisingly does a great job. The psychological depth and disturbing visuals that made the original so memorable are still just as powerful. While there are a few changes like missing film grain and some camera and performance issues that might affect the overall vibe for longtime fans, the game still delivers on its promise of horror. It's a true remake that keeps its core intact, which is very rare these days. If it wasn't for the camera issues and the occasional performance dips, this remake would have earned my must-play seal of approval. It barely misses that mark, which is a high bar that I've set. So this game is a definite play for me. But as always, what is your decision? Are you gonna play or pass? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, leave a like and subscribe, and I will talk to y'all later.